Hello, boys and girls. Welcome to lesson 6-1, using the percent proportion. Today we're going to look at using the percent proportion to solve problems and apply the percent proportion to solve real world problems. Let's take a look at how we could use the percent proportion, right? So, for example, over here we have a real world link, snacks. With 4 different kinds of fruit, this healthy fruit salad recipe is the perfect lunchbox or after school snack. You can adjust the recipe to make more or less by keeping the proportions the same. So here we have a fruit salad, 2 cups of pineapple, 1 cup of blueberry, 3 cups of grapes, 2 cups of strawberries. Let's say you wanted to make double the amount of salad by keeping the same proportions. Well, you would have to just simply double everything. So 4 cups, 2 cups, 6 cups, and 4 cups of strawberries, right? You would essentially just double everything. What you could also do is try to identify how many cups you have here. So you have 2 plus 1 is 3, plus 3 is 6, plus 2 is 8. So you have 8 cups in total, and it's 2 cups out of 8 cups are pineapple. So essentially 2 out of 8, or 1/4, right? That's what we're going to really be talking about today. So you could say over here that 1 part of 4 parts is pineapples. So 25% of this salad, because 1/4 equals 25%, as you already know, right? 25% of this salad is pineapple. So this is how you would want to make sure that you always have this percentage of your salad should always be 25%. So it should always be pineapple. And that's how you know if you're moving proportionally, if you're increasing your salad or decreasing your salad proportionally. As long as pineapples is always 25%, blueberries 1 cup would be 1/8, so 12.5%, 37.5%, and again 25%. As long as you keep those ratios, you can increase or decrease the size of your salad proportionally. So essentially, what I was saying is what we're saying in the key concept. The key concept, this is the main idea of this lesson. So you write it as a ratio, as I wrote it earlier. I wrote that 1/4, as you can see here, 1/4 of my salad, that's so not well done, sorry. 1/4 of my salad was pineapples. So we have the part on the top, the 1, and the whole in the bottom, the 4th, right? And that can easily be converted into a percentage, where my whole will always be 100% and my part is the percentage. So I can multiply the 4 times 25 in order to make it 100, to make it my whole. I would do the same to the top, 1 times 25, and it would give me 25 over 100, which is 25%. In symbols, we have AB is equal to P over 100, percentage over 100% per 100, where A is the part, B is the whole, and P is the actual percent. So let's take a look at the examples. Example 1. 12 is what percent of 32? So 12, I'm just going to write it out here. 12 is what percent? What per 100? What percent? Notice I used the variable P to identify my percentage. Of or out of, as you can see it says here, of, which means out of 32. And that's how you would write it. Okay? Now, if I were to solve this, I would do cross product, but before I do cross product, I would simplify this ratio here, right? So they're both divisible by 2 because they both are even numbers, so this would become 6 and this would become 16, but even then, this could become 3 and this would become 8. So this is 3/8, right? And 3/8, and you could just multiply 8 times 12.5 to get 100, and 3 times 12.5. Okay, and that's how you would go about it, proportionally speaking. Or again, if you have 3/8 over here, remember that I just simplified it to 3/8, replacing that and replacing that, and then I can do cross product, 3 times 100 and 8 times P. So it would be 8P equals 300, and you solve for P. As you can see here in the example, okay, this is the other way to do it. We have the proportion written as I explained it. You write it 12 of 32 is what percent of 100? What percent? Okay. So then you cross multiply, as they've done there. They get 1200 over 32. Now remember, you could have simplified this to 3/8 first to get a smaller number. And then you divide both sides by 32 and you get 37.5. So your percentage is 37.5%. So 12 is 37.5 of 32. That's how you answer the full question. Let's take a look at these examples here. We've got 1A to 1D. Please go ahead, pause the video, and try these on your own. If you still have some difficulties, go back in the video and watch how I did the first example. Okay, go ahead and pause the video now. I hope you paused the video. This is the part where I am going to check, and you can check your work while I do mine. So I will do 1A now. 1A. I have 15 is, you see I'm reading it right here, 15 is what percent, again, we don't know what percent is per 100, what per 100, out of or off 20. There we go. You can do this simply by looking at it. You can do it proportionally, right? You can do, you know that you can increase 20 to 100 because 20 is a multiple of 100, or you can say a factor of 100. If you're counting by 20, after you've counted 5 of them, you get 100. So you could do it like that, and whatever you do to the bottom, if you multiply this by 5, you must do the same to the top, times 5. That's one way to do it, right? Now, if you don't want to do it like that, and again, 15 times 5 is 75. So it would be 75%. I'm sure you know the answer already. But another way to do it would be to simplify this ratio. And they're both multiples of 5. How many 5s do I have on the top? I've got 3. How many 5s do I have in the bottom? I have 4. So 15 over 20 becomes 3/4. And then there you have it, 3/4 to solve for 100. Again, you could do cross product. So 4p equals 300, right? Or you could, it would be 4p, 4 times p is 4p, and 3 times 100 equals 300, okay? And then you simply divide both sides by 4. You do division property of equality, so you can get rid of the 4 on this side, gives you p, and 300 divided by 4 is 75. So 75%. That's one way to do it. The other way that I've taught you before in class is to look at it proportionally. And proportionally means that we have to see what we did to the 20 to make it 100. So we multiplied it by 5. We do the same to the top. Whatever you do to the bottom, you must do to the top. Multiply by 5, and you get 15 times 5 is 75. So 75 out of 100, or 75%. Okay, let's look at 1B. 100 is what percent of 25? 100 is what percent, what, we don't know what, percent of or out of 25. Okay, so this is clearly an improper fraction. We have 100 and it's out of 25. So let's just say you went out to pick 25 apples and instead you picked 100, so you got 100 out of a bag that only fit 25. You have a lot more, right? How many times more do you have? That's what you have to consider. Does 25 going to 100? It does. 100 divided by 25 is 4. So really it quadrupled. Did it not? So if it quadruples here, it must quadruple here. Also, you can see that from here to here, it also quadrupled times 4. So if it quadruples there, it has to quadruple there. Okay? Again, you can find, you can just simply cross product, and before you cross product, see if you can simplify your ratio, where you have over here both multiples of 20, both multiples of 25 right here. They're both multiples of 25. So how many 25s do I have on the top? I have 4 of them. And how many do I have in the bottom? Simply 1, right? So it has, and then what do? I cross product x and 100. So when I cross product, 1 times x is x, and 4 times 100 is 400. Okay, so what percent do we have? We have 400%, 400 per 100. Okay, now we have 1C. What percent? What percent? What per 100? You see that? Of 5 is 12. Off or out of 5 is 12. This is the skill here. The skill is knowing how to align your percent equation. Okay? Let's, can we simplify this? No, they do not have like multiples. Okay, so we can just go ahead and work with what we have. We can cross product. I mean, we get 1200 and 5x, right? If I cross product, it would look like this. Multiply those two together and I get 5x. And multiply the other two together and I get 1200. That's one way to go about it. And then use division property of equality to divide both sides by 5 to get rid of the, isolate the x. And I get my answer, which looks to me like it would be 60? No, 240, I believe. Yeah, because we would have to divide it by 5, and that would give us 240, so that would mean x equals 240. Now, if that's not the way you want to do it, remember you can also look at the question and solve it proportionally. What did I do to the 5 to make it 100? Well, I had to multiply 5 times 20, right? And 5 times 20 is 100, so I have to do the same to the top and multiply the 12 times 20, right? And 12 times 20 is 240. So you would get 240%. So your answer would be 12 out of 5. 12 out of 5 is 240%. And finally, what percent of 18 is 9? So off 18, I already know that 18 is on the bottom because it says off, which means out of, and is 9. So they're looking for what percent? Do you see that? What percent? So I would write the what on the top. That's what we're looking for, the what. What percent per 100? And 9 is, so 9. There we go. As I mentioned earlier, remember, before you cross product, go ahead and see if you can simplify. See if you can simplify. So this would be one that I would want to simplify, and I can see that they're both multiples of 9. So on the top, I only have 1 9, and on the bottom, I have 2 9. So this is a half right here, right? So since it's a half, what did I do to the 2 to make it 100? I had to multiply it by 50. Oh. And whatever I did to the bottom, I must do to the top. So I multiply the top by 50. And I get 50 out of 100, or 50%. If that's not the way you want to do it, and you always want to use the cross product method, which is always very reliable and it works, it's effective, then go ahead and do that. That means you would have to multiply 2 times x and 1 times 100. So you would get 2x equals 100. You have to use division property of equality to get rid of the 2 to isolate the x. And when you do that, the 2's are gone. You have x equals 50. Therefore, what you want to say is, therefore, 9 out of 18, sorry, I'm running out of room here, is, 9 out of 18 is 50%. There's your therefore. Okay, now let's look at example 2. What number is 15.5% of 450? Now remember, again, we have to make the equation, or what this lesson calls our percent proportion. So we are making two ratios that are proportional. And remember that whenever we say the word percent, whenever we say the word percent, you see, or the symbol percent, it means per 100. Percent is per 100. So we write our 15.5% per 100, right? And we're saying that what is 15.5% off 450 off. So that means out of, right? Off of 450. So we're looking for our x on the top. Okay? Again, you can simplify this ratio if you'd like to make it easier to do your cross product. Okay? Or you can see how it increased proportionally. Now I can see that it increased proportionally 4 times, right? Because 100 becomes 400, and then a half of 100, so 4.5 times. So this would have to also be multiplied times 4.5. Right? That's one way that you could look at it. Another one would be you can make the top number a whole number, right? So that it's easier to work with, so you double it to 31, right? And you would have to double the bottom too to 200. That might also make it easier. So how do you convert 200 into 400? You double it. And then how do you get the 50? 50 is 1/4, right? So it would actually be by 2 1/4. That's what you're multiplying it by. Okay, and then you do the same to the top. 2 times 2 1/4. And you would multiply 31 times that. So you can also just do an estimate in your head. 31 times 2 is 62, so you know it has to be slightly over 62. So what is it? What is the answer? Well, take a look here. They want us to write the percent proportion, or the percent equation, and then we have to cross product 100 times, 100 times A, and 15 times 415, right? And you can see that that's how they wrote it out now. 100 times A, so you get 100A times 6,975. And then you have to divide the 100 out. You have to use division property of equality. And you divide both sides by 100. You divide this side by 100 as well. And whenever you divide a number by a number that's base 10, you just count the number of zeros. So here we have 2 zeros, and that's how much is going to move it to the left. So you can see the decimal moved 2 places to the left to become 69.75. So therefore, 69.75 is 15.5% of 450. Okay, let's try these examples right here. This would be the time to take a look through the examples, pause the video and try it on your own, and then play the video again to see your answers. I hope you paused the video. Let's try 2A. So what is 11.4% off 330? Again, 11.4% per 100, right? Percent, 11.4 out of or off 330. You can see right there. And then we're looking for x. So we should cross product, multiply these two, and multiply these two together. 100 times x is 100x, right? And 11.4 times 330 is 3,762. We have to use division property of equality. So let's divide both sides by 100 so that we can isolate our variable, isolate our x. The 100 is gone. I'm left with x equals 37.62. Remember, we just have to account for the number of zeros, and that's how many times our decimal moves over to the left. Question 2b. What is 10.5% of 30? Again, 10.5%, right? Off or out of 30, right? And that's our x right there. So let's cross product, and we multiply 30 times 10. Remember, 30 times 10 is 300, and half of 30, when you multiply a number times a half, you get a half of that number. So 30 times 0.5, you're going to get 15, right? So it's 315. So you get 315 on one side equals 100x. Notice it doesn't matter if you write the 100x equals 315 or 315 equals 100x. Let's isolate our x by using division property of equality on both sides. And that's gone, and then we have left x equals, our decimal is going to move over 2 times, 1, 2, 3.15, and therefore 3.15 is 10.5% of 30. Question 2C. Find 15.3%, 15.3% off or out of 425. We're looking for x. Okay, cross product, multiply those two together, and multiply those two together, and that'll give us 100x on one side, and 15.3 times, 15.3 times 425 equals 6,502.5. Now that we have that, we have to divide both sides by 100. Okay, sorry, I used the highlighter by accident. Divide by 100 and divide on this side by 100. This is 100 is gone, and our x is now isolated. And because we're dividing by 100 on this side, that means our decimal place is just going to move over 2 places. So it will go here and then here, so it becomes 65.025, but I want you to round to the nearest hundredth. So let's erase that 2 5, and because it's a 5, it's going to change. This is greater than, so it's 5 or greater, it's going to change this. If we get rid of it, it's going to change our value from 2 to 3. In example 3, you'll notice that now we're switching around the percent proportion, okay, or the equation. Notice right here how it's being written the way we've never actually written it before. And we have to pay very close attention to what is being written, okay? It's saying right here, 78 is 60%. So we would write the number 78. That's the first thing you're being told, right? 78. And then they say is. That's very important. Is equal. They're telling us 78 is 60%. They didn't say out of. Now they're saying off what number. Now we're actually looking for the bottom number. Off what number? Out of what number? And there you have it. Okay? Always keep in mind that you can simplify some ratios before you do your cross product. And I know that 60% is the same as writing 2/5, simply because I divided both of them by 20. Oh, sorry, 3/5. What am I doing here? 3/5. Okay. Because I divided both numbers divided by 20. So when you divide the top by 20, when you divide 60 by 20, you get 3. And when you divide 100 by 20, you get 5. So there's 3 20s here and 5 20s there. So it becomes 3/5. Now you have 78 over x. And now it will be a lot easier to do your cross product, right? So we've got 78 times 5 and 3 times x. Well, let's see how they did it here. Notice that they did not simplify the ratio, 60%. They didn't simplify that to 3/5, which would be a lot easier if you were doing it in class. But they do the cross product, 78 times 100, as you can see there, and b times 60, which is b times 60, 60b. And then to isolate the variable, they have to use division property of equality, and they're going to divide both sides by 60, and you get b equals 30. What does 30 mean? Well, 30 is what the number is out of. What number? So 78 out of 130 is 60%. You can see that there. So 78 is 60% of 130. Okay, let's try these. Now, notice that we have a concept summary here, this pink section. I would like you to copy this pink section down in your notebook and make sure that this concept is what you walk away with. Find the percent, they explain what it is. Find the part, they explain how to set it up. And find the whole, they explain how to set it up. Make sure that you read carefully what it is that they're saying. Are they saying is? Are they saying off? Okay, what is it that they're telling you, and is it being reflected here? This is a concept that we will practice in class. In the meantime, you can look at these questions 3A to 3D, right? Pause the video and try it on your own, and then play the video to check your answers. 3A. 30%. 30%. You see that? 30%. So I just wrote it out as 30%, right? Of what number of out of what number is 63? There you go. That's how you should have that written out. Now remember, you can simplify this ratio to 3/10, right? Simply by getting rid of the 0 on top and the bottom, 3/10. And then you have 63. Now, just proportionally speaking, without doing your cross product, you could see that 3 is a multiple of 63, or a factor of 63. If you multiply 3 times 21, right? 3 times 21, you will get 63. So why not multiply the 10 times 21, and you will get 210. Therefore, 210 is x. Right? So 30% of 63 is 30% off 210. Got it? Let's try 3b. 3b. 3,000, 1, 2, 3, is 3,000 is 60% of what number? Out of what number? Okay, again, let's simplify the ratio that we're being given here. This is 3/5, right? Count by 20s. 3 20s here and 5 20s there. So let's go ahead and do that, and we get 3/5 equals 3,000. What do I have to do to 3 to make it 3,000? Right here. What do I have to do to it if I'm speaking proportionally and I'm increasing it? I have to multiply by 1,000, don't I? 3 times 1,000 is 3,000. So let's do the same thing at the bottom. Whatever you do to the top, you must do to the bottom. So 5 times 1,000, right? And 5 times 1,000 equals 5,000. So that's x. So 3,000 is 60%. To go back to the question, 3,000 is 60% of 5,000. 3C. 45. 3C. 45, I hope you're reading with me right here. 45 is 3%. 45 is 3%. You see how I wrote that? Of what number? 45 out of what number? Okay? Again, as I've always said, you can cross product. Right? Multiply 45 times 100 and 3 times x, and you have 3x times 4,500. 3x equals 4,500, or you can just look at the proportionality of it. What did I do to the 3 to make it 15? What number times 3 is 45? 3 times 15, right? 3 times 15 is 45. Do the same to the bottom. 100 times 15, right? 100 times 15 is 1,500, right? So x equals 1,500. Let's look at 3D. 3D, we have 18%. 18% of what number? Out of what number? Out of or off what number is 126? Okay, I would simplify the ratio. This can become 9, while this becomes 50. That would be the first thing I do because it's easier to work with that. So I just simplify, cut those two in half, divide it both by 2, and now I have 126. And you can see if 9 times a number is 126, I know 9 times 10 is 9 times 10 is 90, 9 times 11 is 99, 9 times 12 is 108, 9 times 13 is 117, and 1 times 14 is 126. So yeah, it works out perfectly. I can just do 9 times 14, count it all the way out. So why don't I do 7 times 14, 50 times 14, and you'll see that you get 700. X equals 700, right? And finally, we have example 4. For example 4, we have a baseball statistic where a person, Derek Jeter, player for the New York Yankees, went to bat 639 times. And in those 639 times, if you look over here at the numbers, it can be broken down into these hits. You got 151 single hits, which means he hit the ball and was able to run to first base. He got 39 doubles, which means he hit the ball and he was able to run to second base. Triples, he got four of them, which meant he was able to run to third base. Home runs, knocked it out of the park 12 times. He walked, means they threw 4 balls. He was able to just walk to first base. And he got struck out 100 times. If you add all of these at-bats, you'll get the total amount of 639. Now they're telling us to compare the amount of singles he got, which is 151, to the total number of at-bats, which is 639. So it's 151 out of 639. You can see it here. And we're looking for what that is in percentage. So we can put the P there over 100. You can cross product, as you can see. And then in order to isolate the P, we have to do division property of equality on both sides, and it isolates the P. So we had an average of about 23.6% single, okay, when he was up at bat. Okay, so now we can try it. We have 4A and B. If you like, please go ahead and read through it on your own and try to do it on your own, and then play the video to check your answer. You'll see that for 4A, they're asking for strikeouts. You can compare here to 100 strikeouts out of 639 at bat. And then finally, over here, they're telling us that the number of mutual... Oh, for B, this is a different question. So let's just try 4A first. Go ahead, pause the video and try it. So the equation would look like this, where you have 100 strikeouts out of 639 at bats. And if we wanted to convert that out of 100 per 100 or percent, we would write it x over 100. So we go ahead and we can do cross product. Okay, we multiply this way and we multiply this way, and it looks like this. And when you multiply 100 times 100, you get 10,000. And 639 times x, you get 639x. Now we have to isolate our x, so we will use division property of equality on both sides. And that will give us our value of x. And we get 15.6. 15.6 is the average at bat, or the percentage that Derek Jeter struck out. He struck out 15.6% of the time. And finally, we have the last question, where we have mutual funds, financial literacy. The number of mutual funds that increased in value during the third quarter of the fiscal year was 15. If this is 60%, so 15 is 60% of the total number of mutual funds offered, how many mutual funds were offered? So they're telling us that 15 is 60%. See that? So we're looking for the total number. What is 15 out of? You can use cross product, or you can also look at how it breaks down. You see that how it moves sequentially, or you could see how it increases proportionally. 15 and 60 are both multiples of 15. You see it was quadrupled. So a number going this way also quadrupled to become 100. You can also go backwards and say 60 divided by a number will give me 15. 60 divided by 4. So 100 divided by 4 will give me 25. And that would be our answer. So the answer would be 25 is the original mutual funds offered. The original number of mutual funds offered. Okay. I did that one quickly in order to try to keep the video a little bit shorter, because we've gone for a very long time. Here is your guided practice. Please just glance through it. Make sure you feel comfortable with it, because we will be starting class with the guided practice. See you then.